Hello chess friends and welcome to Yazarov Chess channel and welcome back to our Catalan opening studies. So in this studies we'll see this beautiful sharp tactical opening analyzed by both sides, but today we're continuing with the video which is in my opinion even the most important video in our Catalan opening studies. Today we'll analyze the common mistakes that can happen in this beautiful opening. So there are not only mistakes that black is making over and over again, there are also the common mistakes by white, and I've sorted out here really 10 common mistakes that can happen in an early stage of the game by both sides. In my opinion, really important study here, because probably you will meet these ideas many times in your own games, or you play these ideas, or you face maybe your opponent's mistakes and then you want to punish him, of course, then you want to win the games very easily, very effectively. So be prepared. As I said, very important. Now please follow this 10 common mistakes. Don't do this because you could have really great positional problems. So I've sorted out the 10 mistakes here in the right corner. You can check out and follow now as we're analyzing some positions. So the first mistake, and it's of course the common mistake in the Catalan opening, I like to call it underestimating your opponent's light square bishop. So the light square bishop, of course, in the Catalan is the most powerful piece on the board. So that's why never underestimate this power, because this bishop has so many opportunities. It creates, of course, many tactical threats. And for instance, in this position, black played d takes c4, liberated the beast. The beast is coming out now, and now of course there is this dirty tactic, queen to a4, knight to c6, and after bishop to c6, so you see we can also pick up the bishop. So there are many opportunities. We're not analyzing now the common tactics with the light square bishop, but as I said, usually the common traps and the common ideas are a result of your opponent's mistakes. So that's why I think never underestimate your opponent's light square bishop, because you could have some really tactical problems. So the other problem, so this is now our second mistake that we can make. It's also part, of course, of the light square bishop, but I've sorted it out as a specific motif in the Catalan opening, because usually black wants to play now the move b5, and this b5 move can be a common mistake by black, but can be also a common mistake by white. I'll explain what I mean about it. So far, for instance, in this position, the move b5 is a thematic move many times in the Catalan. We want to fix our pawn after we take the pawn d takes c4. We want to fix the structure. We want to play c6, a6, maybe even bishop to b7. We want to keep the position on the queen side solid. So far, as we said, it's not possible because the beast is coming out again. But as I said, this b5 move can cause also many positional problems in white position. So for instance, here, of course, obviously the game is lost here for black, or even if you play here something like knight to d5, then we have knight to c6 is trapping the queen. So far, you see the b5 in this particular position is not working. But for instance, in this particular position, after d takes c4, now b5 suddenly makes sense. Look at this. It's a different story, and actually white made a mistake by allowing here the move b5. Now b5 comes in a different way, because if you play now knight to e5, look at this, we can now fix the structure with the move knight to d5, and now we have a great control of this long diagonal. And of course knight to c6 is not working anymore, because still we have a great control of the c6 square. So actually here white is facing already many positional problems, because white allowed the move b5. So the b5 move is really a thematic idea in the Catalan opening. So when you're playing the Catalan like this, try to see if there is a possibility of b5, or try to see if this b5 move is a mistake. So b5 is really sort of an idea that you face many times in the Catalan opening. So that's why when you face these positions, this is a moment where you have to take your time, where you have to understand the positional and tactical threats of the position. So as I said, b5 is really the most common idea in the Catalan opening. So let's see now a different problem. This is now our third mistake that can happen many times in the Catalan opening. It's actually this c file and d file problems. So you see many times we are reaching this kind of a position where the rook is lined up against our opponent's queen. So the queen on c2 is hanging, sort of. If something clears on the c file, then the queen could be endangered. But the same we can say also for black. If the d file opens, then the queen is also in danger. So we have already a dynamic position in the center. You see the center is about to be to explode. So you see many pawns have been pushed already. So obviously this position is getting open, so that's why the queens could be really endangered. And now, for instance, white makes now a mistake in this particular position. White has some chances to be aggressive, to play maybe e4, knight to e5, challenging, of course, the queen in a different way. I think e4 is here even the best continuation for white, but white underestimates now black continuation here on the c file, plays now a passive move b3. And you see now, you had your chance with e4, you had your chance with knight to e5, you played now the move b3 and you underestimated the c-file attack. So that's what I call about really a common mistake in the Catalan c-file or d5 attacks. And black continues now with the common c5 move. It's trying to liberate the c-file. White even doesn't understand the position. Further plays now knight to b5. Look at this, after c takes d4, knight to a7. Okay, you have your fun with the tempo against the rook, but the rook is staying on the c file. Now the knight retreats, and look at this, after d takes c4, b takes c4. Now suddenly black is rolling here in the game, plays even bishop to d5, and after knight to a3, even b5. So the game was over already in 18 moves. So black destroyed here white on the c file. So look at this, as I said, we have here also this powerful center. This bishop is good, the knight is controlling the center of the board. So here really white underestimated the c-file attack by blacks. Look at this, the b3 move was simply too passive. As I said in the beginning, white had some chances to be aggressive with the move e4, had some chances to be aggressive with the move knight to e5. Both of these moves I think could be working, because for instance after knight to e5, if d takes e5, knight takes e5 happens, then after d takes e5, the d file is open, so it's a different story. Or after move e4, we have at least here, look at this, after move rook to c b3, instead of this move b3, if we play e4, then we are already aggressive here, so it's a different story. So with the move b3, white underestimated really the c file attack. So a common mistake in the Catalan opening. So here with the same idea, here black has some chances to pick up the pawn on c4. After d takes c4, the game leads into something like this, knight to d2, or maybe b takes c4, bishop to c4, but again knight to d2, and maybe then afterwards to play the move e4. So okay, white gave up a pawn, but has this powerful central control, could break through here with the move e4, maybe then afterwards d5 or e5. So it's a common also idea. We give up the pawn on c4 and we create this connected two pawns in the center of the board. But after move knight to c3, instead of this move d takes c4, that black had as a chance, black plays now the move c5. Black wants to play his common c-file attack. In the previous example, we have seen that the c-file attack worked because white played simply too passively here. But now in this particular story, it's a different idea, because the move c5 can be met immediately with the move e4. Look at this. This is now a wild story, because after d takes e4, that could happen. We can play knight to e4, and look at this. White has now a powerful control. And after e4, what black did in this particular position, played the common c takes d4. Tried now to liberate the c file, but now it's a different story. White can ignore the threat with e takes d5, and whatever happens, for instance d takes c3, look at this, d6. So here again we have the d file but also the c file problem. Here with the move d6, white is breaking here the position, e5, knight to e5, bishop to e5. Look at this, this bishop is taken, and now we can pick up the pawn on c3. So here obviously white is much better. White has the bishop pair, white has an extra pawn. Or in this position, after e takes d5, you can also play knight to h5. But now look at this, d takes e6, f takes e6, knight to d4, knight to f4, g takes f4. Now this pawn is falling, so it's really already again a messed up position here for black. So see here, let's go back. After move knight to c3, black had some chances to pick up the pawn on c3, but here black never played it. Played now the move c5, played simply aggressively without even thinking about the counterplays of white. White noticed this moment immediately and played now this beautiful e4 move and destroyed here black on the d file. So as I said, here we're not going to accept that, sorry. So after move c4, you see and c5, black has really some problems on the d-file. So be careful when we have this dynamics in the center of the board. Be careful what's going to happen on the d-file and c-file, because the queens are lined up on this file. So let's see another example. We have here again the c-file problems, and this is one of my games. I played a blitz game and I intuitively played this move knight to h5, hitting the bishop on f4, but this is a mistake. This is really huge mistake that I made. I played it's really common mistake that black is making, so I wanted to show you one of my mistakes also in the video. From knight to h5, I kind of felt he cannot go here to e5. I'll just pick up this bishop, and if he goes back, then I have at least kicked away this annoying bishop. But actually, my opponent played this beautiful c takes d5 after move knight to f4 that I played. He doesn't have to even take out now the knight on f4. He played simply d takes c6, double attack. I played knight to e2. After queen to e2, I played knight to f6. But now after knight to e5, the position is over here for me. Very wild stuff. Instead of this move, look at this. After knight to h5, after c takes d5, if I play, for instance, c takes d5, then I have this one, bishop to c7, and the queen gets trapped. So really incredible tactics. So as I said, be careful about some tactics on the c file, but also on the d file. These are common mistakes that you make over and over again. So you see, after bishop to f4, knight to h5, the game was already messed up here for me. So let's see another mistake that black is making over and over again. I like to call it simply too passive play here by black. So black is already challenged on this diagonal, and there are many opportunities what you can do. In my opinion, when you face this knight on e5 move, you have to challenge it in some ways. You can play it, of course, knight from f to d7 or knight from b to d7. In my opinion, you have to challenge the knight immediately. But here in one of the games that I found, black played the move c6, played simply too passively, and allowed here the move e4 without even being challenged in a different way. So you see now the c4 is protecting, the bishop is not even on a6 like in the previous example. So black allowed simply this aggressive method by white without even challenging the center in any ways. I think it's really a common mistake in black's position, because now after knight from b to d7, this is not working anymore. It's simply too passive. You had your chance to play knight from b to d7 to challenge the knight on e5, and look at this, what happens. Knight to c6. We have here really cool tactic, bishop to c6. The pawns are rolling now with the move d6. You can pick up the bishop, but this one comes with the tempo, and now after king to g2, white is continuing the game with an extra pawn. Still, it's of course a struggle. Still, it's a battle for a win, but I think in top grandmaster level, this should be completely winning here for white. So let's go back. As I said, after knight to e5, this, whenever you feel this idea that the diagonal gets liberated, you have to challenge this knight. You have to battle for the center, because with the move c6, you're simply too passive. Look at this, e4. White gets a position that he wants to get in the beginning. It's a common plan of white to get the e4. You never challenge his center. As I said, in some of these positions, you have opportunities to play bishop to a6 and challenging the pawn on c4 at least. At least you're attacking the center in some ways. But you see, with the move bishop to b7, you played passively. You play c6, a passive move, and now finally you're trying to battle, but it's simply too slow. Knight to c6 is now the winning tactic here for white. So let's see now another example. I like to call it a light square bishop mistake by white. White should not give up his light square bishop in the Catalan. At least if he does it, he has to have a good reason for it. So for instance, in this particular position, black played really aggressively, played on a flank attack with the king in the center, which is really wild. It's sort of a move that I think Magnus Carlsen would play on a banter blitz session or something. But h5 is really an interesting idea. I will not say this is losing for black, but black should of course castle and secure the king and play of course a more solid game. But here white went into this line, bishop to f4, and after move e5, what black white was hoping for is that after bishop to c6 and the bishop to c6, that of course he could capture the pawn in a beautiful way with the move bishop to e5 or knight to e5. But actually, by giving up your light square bishop, this is not good anymore. But look at this. After e takes f4, bishop to d7 was white's continuation after rook to d7. And we have now reached a position, okay, still when it comes to computer relations, this is equal. But you gave up now the light square bishop. And the light square bishop in Catalan openings and whenever you play the fianchetto position in your games, is not only a good attacking piece. We have to understand that the light square bishop is also a great defender in front of the king. So now I would not love to play anymore this game from white's perspective, especially because of the fact, look at this, knight to b6 was white's continuation. Okay, you get your tempo, but black continued with the beautiful rook to d4. And look at this, there is now the tension on the h file. Maybe we can also somehow include the queen into the game. Maybe we can sneak in with the queen on h3 and you get this usual h file attack. So don't underestimate also your defensive strategies with your light square bishop, because the light square bishop is not only a great attacker, it's also a great defender in front of the king. So here in this tactical sequence that white played, okay, he had some fun, he had some threats, but he gave up his light square bishop. Now his king is naked, especially because of the fact that there's also not a knight here on f3. If the knight would be on f3, then you could have a new defender, but now, as I said, you have just pawns in front of the king, and although black's king is also stuck in the center, it's still a messed up game here for white for sure. So here again, a similar example. Here white didn't trade off the light square bishop, stayed with the light square bishop on the board, but with the move e5, we have a similar idea. Black locked the light square bishop on with the move e5. If you want to get your bishop back into the game, you have to sacrifice one pawn, which probably white is not going to do. And you see now, again, a similar position with the move bishop to c6. The bishop is paralyzed by its own pawn. It cannot go back on g2, where it could be used as a good defensive piece. So now, okay, it has some activities here on both of these diagonals, but it's basically not attacking anything. So I would not evaluate this bishop on c6 as a great attacking piece. So that's why now with the move e5, black here played a beautiful, a stunning positional move, locked now the bishop on c6. And again, we have the problem of the light square bishop. So I've sorted it out also as a common mistake that white can make in the continuation of the game. Now we have queen to c2. Now look at this light square problems, queen to h3. White is protecting g4. It's not allowing knight to g4, but now comes another problem, bishop to c5. Now we have e3. Look at this, e4 in the continuation, knight to a4 was played, but white continued, black continued with this beautiful e takes f4, knight to c5, rook takes c6, and after b takes c6, look at this, rook to d1. The queen gets deflected from the defense of the g2 square, and black has this beautiful, stunning checkmate. So as I said, here e5 was a brilliant move by black. Whenever you have the opportunity to maybe get rid of this light square bishop, whenever you have the opportunity to lock it, do it, because you saw in both of these examples that white had really some great positional problems afterwards. So let's go also to one problem that I also sorted out, and I also noticed that many times in white's position, white plays e4 immediately, and e4, as we said also in the beginning of our video, b5 is a thematic move that black wants to play. Many times b5 is not working, many times also black b5 is working. Like the b5 move, the e4 move is also a thematic move in the Catalan opening. White wants to punish this passive setup of black c6, e6, d5, which is common, of course, for the closed Catalan. With the move e4, okay, you have your fun, you are trying to battle now for the center, but actually, you look at this early e4 mistake happens many times, and now in one game that I found in the database, it sort of FIDE international master level, bishop to b4 was of course black's continuation, simply hitting the knight on c3 after bishop to b2, bishop takes b2, and now you have to again give up your light square bishop. Okay, these are opposite colored bishops. Of course, if in an optimal world where this game would reach the endgame stage, probably this is a draw, because of course this kind of position, this opposite colored bishops are leading into drawish endgames. But this is far away from the endgame. Now in the continuation, white tried here queen to g4, f5, and after a couple moves we'll play simply bishop to b7, c5, liberating maybe the long diagonal, maybe even play e3, getting the queen somehow into the attack, maybe trying some checkmate threats on light square. So as I said, from this point on, I think white doesn't have a pleasant game. Again, we have the problems of the light squares, of the light square bishop, but I think the thematic problem was this early e4 move. Notice when white is playing that the knight is loosed on c3. Also, the knight is many times loosed on c3, so be careful when you're having this tactical shots or something, then also you can endanger your knight in a different way. So also what I've sorted out as a problem is the endangered queen position by white. So many times in the open Catalan, when we pick up the pawn on c4, d takes c4, white wants to recapture the pawn with the queen by playing queen to a4, and then he wants to play queen takes c4. This is good. This is nothing spectacular so far happened in the game. White has now the opportunity to castle or to play knight to e5. Both of these moves are really, really great, I think. Both of these moves are working here for white. But white is making now a common mistake, wants to be active, sort of wants to delay castling, and now the queen gets endangered. You had your chance, you had your fun, and now b5. As we said also in the beginning, the b5 move is a thematic move in the Catalan, but now it works in a beautiful, sharp, tactical way, because after queen to b5, look at this, knight to c2, the queen gets deflected from the c2 square. In the continuation, king to d2, we have bishop to d7, and after king takes c2, knight to d4. Is still a complicated game, of course, for white, but eventually black has, I think, a decent game. Got rid of the queen. Still, many times it's a positional battle, it's a positional struggle, but be careful with your queen when the queen gets on a4 out like this. Let's go back. So after bishop to d7, look at this, the queen is really, really messed up here, so be careful in these types of tactics. So as I said in the beginning, after move knight to d5, look at this, after knight takes b4, white had the opportunity to castle, white has the opportunity to play knight to e4, to be aggressive also on this diagonal. Both of these moves I think are working, but now white played a3 and got punished afterwards. So let's see now a different mistake by white that white is making over and over again. As we said in the first example, the light square bishop should never be underestimated by white, but never underestimate your opponent's light square bishop. Also, the dark square bishop the light square bishop of black, so that's what I tried to say, is also a powerful piece. Notice the pawn is lined up here on this diagonal. The rook on f1 is also lined up on this diagonal. So although white has his fun, black has his fun too. And here in this particular game that I found also in the database, white played the aggressive rook to d1. And okay, this could be working, of course, in an optimal world. If something gets cleared on the d file, maybe the queen could be endangered on the d file. A better way was, of course, to play this aggressive e5. This would be a good position again for white. But after move rook to d1, white really underestimated the power of the light square bishop of blacks. Here black continue with the move b5, and whatever you do, for instance, if you play c takes b5, we play c takes b5. If you play knight to b5, then we have d takes e4, a beautiful fork. So the game is over here for you for sure. So in the game after b5, here white continue now with the move e5, but it's simply too slow. After b takes c4, knight to e8, simply retreating, h4, and now after bishop to c4, black had a solid game. Black also won this game, so it was still, of course, a tough battle. I'm not saying this is immediately winning because you reach this position, but I think here really white underestimated the power of the light square bishop. The c4 pawn is taken, the queen was lined up on this diagonal, so white had really some problems in the game. So let's go to another problem. It's I think also a psychological problem. It's sort of an idea. When you play the Catalan, many times you are going into tactical battles. Many times you are going into wild tactical sequences. Whenever you feel pressured, you want to simplify the game too much sometimes. So here in this particular position, Black doesn't understand the position, I think, immediately, and it's really a strong international master and a grandmaster level. In this particular game that I found in the database, White got challenged with the move Queen to B4, and Black could have played, instead of this move Queen to B4, could have played maybe Queen to H5. Now after Rook from F to D1, Black has some chances maybe to play E5, and finally this light square bishop would come out in a beautiful way into the game. So, but what Black did here is Queen to B4. And Black is not understanding this position in a good way, I think, because after Queen to B4, White continued with the move A3, and after Queen to B3, Knight to B3, we have reached the endgame stage. And in this particular endgame, White is much better. So be careful. That's what I call really an endgame problem in the Catalan. Be careful if you are going into an endgame stage. Notice, okay, White doesn't have anymore the bishop pair. Black has the bishop pair, but still this power of the light square bishop is something that bothers now Black in the continuation of the game. So for instance, in this game, bishop to d7 was played, and White continued simply with the pressure around the square b7. Support, of course, we have of this light square bishop. So okay, you went into an endgame, but now you face many positional problems. This is not the optimal bishop pair that you have on the board. So as I said, if you are playing the Catalan, you can expect a really complicated game, a really tactical game. Don't try to run away from battles. That's this example, I think. In this particular game, Black tried to get out of the battle. So you cannot get out of the battle in the Catalan. You have to sometimes accept that you're getting knocked out, or you will probably knock someone out, but you have to go into a battle. After move Queen to B4, Black hoped in sort of a psychological way to have a calm game, but it's not working. The Catalan is not a calm opening. You have to accept that. You have to go into battles. Look at this. After knight to a5, bishop to c6 was played, knight to d4, hitting the pawn on c6. Look at this. b4. Look at this. Beautiful tactics happened, and eventually Black resigned the game. So endgame problem in the Catalan exists. Don't simplify the game too much, because if you do that like this, the light square bishop is still a good piece, although the game is not so complicated, although there are not so many pieces on the board. So still a messed up game here for Black. So here is a huge problem in the White position. So White allowed the move b5, and which we have analyzed in the beginning as a mistake by White. But now this is a decent position of White, because White has the opportunity to play something like knight to d2, and this pawn on c4 will be taken in a beautiful way. So then of course afterwards we want to play e4, and there is a game in the database, Ido Goldstein against Matthias Palzert, in which White won the game in this particular position. The evaluation here is in White's favor, but here White doesn't understand the positional problems of the Catalan, doesn't understand the pawn majorities on the queen side. So whenever you feel pressured, of course, by the pawn majorities on the queen side, you should do something about it. So it's not time maybe just to push pawns here in the center. So here White played the common mistake e4, allowed this Zwischenzug, this intermediate attack against the queen. And now look at this. The knight is coming here on d3. In the next couple moves, we hit the knight on f6. The knight has to retreat, and then we have the d3 as a beautiful square. We will eventually play c5, a5, regroup, of course, bishop to b7, knight to d7 are opportunities. But here I think White simply underestimated the pawn majorities, the potential pawn breaks for motifs on the queen side. So this is now our 10th mistake in the Catalan Opening, really not understanding this common threats on the queen side. So be careful when you're doing that. Look at this, as I said, in this position e4, look at this, b3, knight to b4, and after knight to a3, for instance, the bishop to a6 move was a continuation. White has a great protection of this square, knight to d3, so it's really a messed up game here for White. So really great ideas I think we have seen here, really the common mistakes. So let me repeat it again. So underestimate the power of the bishop. So you see in the right corner, that's our first mistake. We have b5 problems for White and for Black. So you saw in these examples that b5 is many times not working for Black, because there are these common tactics on the long diagonal. They are really dirty ideas. But also when white is allowing the move b5 in a beautiful way. Also in this particular position, you see the b5 move came in a beautiful way. It's a different story. It's not such a huge mistake to play b5 now. So for instance, there are also the c and d file problems that we have seen. The queens are many times endangered on the c and d file. We have seen also the problem of passive play by black. Black should not be passive in his game, because white has a great activity in the Catalan. If he plays too slowly the game, then he could get destroyed. We have seen that the problems of the light square bishop of white, never trade it off for a bad piece of your opponents, because the light square bishop, as we said, is not only a good attacking piece, it's also a great defensive piece in front of the king. So when you are getting rid of your light square bishop, you could face many positional tactical problems. We have seen early e4 moves by white, which was also a problem, especially when the knight was loosed on c3. We should never underestimate also what I have written here, queen problems. The queen problems were also present when we have seen there are many tactical ideas in which we can trap the queen. And also what we have seen are the light square problems on the long diagonal by black. So black has also many times the powerful light square bishop. We have seen also this pawn breakthrough motifs as a problem, and also we have seen the endgame problems, because if the game reaches the endgame stage, black still has some problems because of the light square bishop. So that are, in my opinion, the 10 most important tactical and positional problems of the Catalan Opening here for white and for black. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the study. I think this is very important. This mistakes and these positions will happen to you over and over again. Be careful what you're doing. The Catalan is so double-edged. As I said in the beginning, there are many cool opportunities for white, but as I said, there is also this common mistake. So here in the continuation of our Catalan opening series, now we analyze really the common strategies, the common plans of particular openings, like the closed Catalan, opening Catalan, and many different ideas. So okay, what you say? See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.